Welcome to Conversations with Educators. I am your host, Jerome Ellison, and today I have a special guest, Quincy Carter. Thank you, Quincy, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get started. So I'd like to start with a quick game. This game is called Start, Bench, and Cut.
Okay.
So I give you three topics, and you pick which one you would start the best, which one would you bench second best, and which one would you cut third
Okay.
best, like a team,
Got it.
right? So I want you to think about your school experience as a student. So
Mhm.
your elementary school experience, your middle school experience, and your high school experience. Which one would you start, bench, or cut, and why?
I'm gonna start high school. High school because those were the most extraordinary years of my educational experience. I went to the Sister Tyson School of Performing and Fine Arts in East Orange, New Jersey, and so it was a place filled with just artistic people.
Mm,
Every which way you turned, from the middle schoolers up to the high schoolers, and so like I would definitely start that because it was just an experience.
cool.
My bench, I'm gonna go ahead and bench elementary school.
Why?
Um, it just wasn't, I mean, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about the importance of it all. You don't care.
Mm.
Like you're just like, okay, I actually just want to be at home. I would prefer a nap right now. Um, like it was just that thing. And so I would definitely bench elementary school. And so
Right.
obviously I'm going to cut middle school. Those were the worst years of my life. There's
Everyone
a
says
book,
that.
there's a movie on that, middle school, the worst years of my life. And it was awful. It was
Mhm.
awful, and I hated every bit of it. And so, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut middle school.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get started. So, why did you become an educator? What got you into the field of teaching?
So I was in college. I went to Centenary University in Hackettstown, New Jersey, and I had a particular skill set, and so I started tutoring and teaching people the skills.
Mm,
I fell in love with it. I went back to my high school and I would volunteer. And when I would go back to volunteer, I would volunteer teaching costume design and doing hair and makeup for the theater department. Something I've always loved, something I've always been a part of. And so it was lit to me.
mm,
And then when I was about a sophomore in college, my brother died. And my brother only lived till he was 18 years old.
oh,
He
oh,
didn't get the experience of going to college. And there were some people in his journey, who were teachers who just were really kind to him and cared about him, but a wealth of people just did not care about him in the educational system. And so they let him just do whatever and be whatever. And no one pushed him for more. And so I wanted to become an educator that stood in the gap for kids to push them to be better and want to do more, no matter what the circumstances were.
I love that. I love that. I think about that all the time as an educator. Anytime I see, if we lose a kid,
Mhm.
young, especially to the streets or to,
Yeah.
to the neighborhoods, I feel like I always think about that kid and their experience in school. I feel like that kid he was an innocent child in school sometimes, and he had experience in school, and some teacher, someone could have impacted his life differently or her life differently and changed the trajectory of their life. But so I think that's why I think school and education is so important because we have that power as educators to really influence kids.
I think we just get it, like, especially now, a lot of people don't go that extra mile because we could have the
Mm,
politics of it all,
mm,
right? And people miss the fact that education is not a political thing. You are talking about somebody's life here. You are talking about the thing that literally either makes or breaks a person.
mm.
And so not having an education, it sets you back.
Yeah.
It sets you back. I don't care what level of education you have. I'm not saying you got to go get the bachelor's and the master's and the PhD like that. It's not that thing. But to have the basic level of education, no one should be robbed of that. And I think so many kids are robbed of it all because of some educator who could have poured into them and just chose not to.
Mm. That's so true. So true. So piggybacking on that, what has been your biggest challenge in your career so far as an educator?
I've been in education for almost 12 years.
Mm,
And my biggest challenge would have to be um, the lack of compassion. It's the lack of compassion for me. I taught entrepreneurship um, out in the South Bronx
nice.
to high schoolers.
Ooh.
It was lit.
Yeah,
It
yeah. They
was
need
lit.
that. They need that. We need more of that in the school system for sure.
But the issue was, I would never forget, like my first week there. I assigned high schoolers, right? A 2-page paper answering 4 questions, Times New Roman, size 12 font, double space. In my head, I'm thinking this is the simplest thing ever. Like, y'all are gonna conquer this. It's gonna be beautiful because I'm asking you simple questions. I'm like, there's an understanding that you all have here. No. Monday rolled around and assignments were due. Out of about 200 kids, I only got 10 papers. I went to the principal and I said to the principal, why? Like, are we not in high school?
Yeah.
Is this not something that we do? And she says, you're asking for way too much. She's like, these kids can't produce that. You're asking them to do something that's not that's not a thing for them. But she lacked compassion because you are the head of this school. Not once did you think to say, let me push these kids, right? Be compassionate to their situation, but also encourage them that this is possible. You can get through this, you can do this, and it's going to be better afterwards. Like right now, it might look daunting, it might look rough, but you're going to be better afterwards. And so she just lacked compassion for me. You just didn't care about the kids because you didn't push them. And I feel like if you don't push a kid in a positive manner, you just don't care. You're not it's no other way to put it. You just don't care.
And kids pick up on that. They know. They know which teachers have high expectations for them, and they know which ones they can just get away with by doing a bare minimum. And the more you have your expectations low over the years, then the lower they have the expectations for themselves, and they don't even try if you don't have that high expectations for them. So you have to push them.
They see that, like, it's literally something that they carry with them throughout life. So a man thinketh, a man doeth.
That's deep.
So if you think that you're not good enough, if you think that you cannot do this, guess what? You're not gonna do it. No. You're just not. It's not gonna happen.
Not at
You're
all.
gonna be out here like, oh, whatever, because some teacher told you you can't do it. You're not good enough, right? I tell. I'm a grade team leader for my middle school over the 7th grade, and in being in that position, I have to tell my team all the time, while you are not physically telling kids to their faces how you feel about them, you think they don't feel your energy?
Of course.
And so, especially now we're in the virtual setting, you're looking for kids to come into your classroom. You're looking for them to participate. You're looking for them to learn. They do not want to go to that space because they know how you really feel about them. Yeah. Why am I showing up to your class? There's no need for me to show up to your class because you just don't care. And kids, they are the purest people. They're just pure, right? No matter what we want to say about them. Yes, we got some crazy kids, but you just have to love them differently. You just got to love them differently. And when you don't love them differently, you think they don't know. They know. They're aware of it.
They know. They have that innate quality, within them that they can really tell if you really care. And some kids take longer they're assessing you, they're figuring you out. But if you stick it through and once you get them and they know that you care, they're willing to jump over a wall for you, you know? So we have to have those high expectations.
And then teaching my algebra class, like literally, there was this kid who they kept telling me, they said, don't waste your time with him. Don't waste your time. The only language this kid spoke was football. He didn't care about nothing else she was talking about, but he understood football. I taught this kid algebra using football. He excelled.
Why? That was an entry point.
I met him where he was. It's an entry point. You over here trying to give kids all this. They don't care about that. Meet them where they are at and watch. You can get anything from the kid when you meet them where they are.
That's it. That's why it's so important to care for them and get to know them, because then you have those entry points where you can pull from what they know in their real life and where they are now, and then bring that into the classroom and work that into the curriculum. And that could be the motivating factor that can really inspire any kid. And too many times I do agree with you. I feel like teachers give up on kids. You know, teachers pass messages on from year to year. Like this kid doesn't like this kid doesn't like this parent doesn't help them. And then kids pick up on that. And teachers also hold that quality in, and they lower the expectations every year on that kid based on another teacher's experience with them, you know? And we have to take, every year should be a fresh start for every kid, and we have to get to know them where they are at that point and not hold them backed by prior behaviors, prior experiences. They're kids and they're still learning and growing. But if we don't give them that chance to learn and grow, they're going to shut down. And that happens to a lot of our Black and brown students in the system oftentimes.
Like literally, I think you said it best. Like every year is a new start. But we also live in a time now where people just are so petty. Mm-hmm. I heard that this kid is this. Mm-hmm. I don't care about what you heard. Do you know it to be a fact?
Yep.
Kids don't come into my class recklessly moving. They're like, this is probably not the class to do that. It's just not the class to do that. You're going to expect a lot from us.
Yeah.
And because you are Black and brown, I do expect a lot from you all. I do. Yep. Because guess what? The world is going to throw you away. All because of the color of your skin. The world has already counted you out. In my classroom, no, you are somebody and you get to thrive and you get to be great here with all of your different quirks.
Yes. And you get to be yourself. That's another thing. It's like we have to stop, especially with our Black and brown students, stop making them leave themselves outside and walk into a building and just be someone else and put a mask on. If we allow them to walk into our classroom and be themselves, they'll be more, comfortable with taking risks and making mistakes.
But do you think
and messing up words? What was that?
Do you think that is a result of who the adults are in this space?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they don't get to take risk and they don't get to be themselves, that now kids have to completely shut that off.
For sure, it's the system. It all trickles down from the top. The bureaucracy trickles down to the bottom. We feel like we're confined and we have to meet these standards and do this, and then we put that on the kids, and the kids just feel like robots, and they're not really free to be themselves because teachers aren't and administrators aren't. And it keeps going up and up. That's why it goes back to what you said about education being politicized. If we take that factor out of it and we just focus on the child and putting the child first, then that will be an opening door to real education reform and really meeting the needs of the whole child. But that's something that we struggle with, honestly.
And I think we're constantly working towards it because of platforms like this.
Yes.
You get to you get to explore it, but you also get to let people know what it is that needs to be done.
That's the goal.
And so it's a dialogue that's taking place. And prior to COVID, were we actually having these dialogues? Probably amongst our group of friends. But on a larger scale, no, we weren't. Because as long as Black and brown kids fail, nobody cares.
No one cares.
If Black and brown kids are failing, it's like, oh, well, it's fine. That's what they're like. It's a thing. His mama didn't do it. His father didn't do it. And so that's why he not going to do it. What?
No, we have to look inner. We have to look at what are the other factors? How does the system play a role in that? How does society play a role in that? And then fix those issues to make it a more, positive environment for the students so they can thrive.
Absolutely.
And I think COVID has made us really sit with that and really see that a lot of the things that contribute to the issues that some of our kids have or the struggles that some of our kids have are out of their hands.
Yeah.
And what can we do to support them as much as we can in those areas so that they can be successful in the school building?
Absolutely. I would agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. Moving forward, I want to ask you, so based on your experience, what do you think, if you had something that you think needs to be added or changed about the education school system, what was one thing that you think should be added or changed? The biggest thing.
So the biggest thing is the whole system needs to be changed. Throw it all away. It's awful.
Where would you start?
I would start with the time that kids go to school, right? There was a study that was done a few years back, and I want to say like Norway, somewhere of that such, where they tested how does going to school really, really early affect and impact kids? How does starting like at all these different times, how does that impact kids and their learning? And what they found was starting school about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get the best results out of kids because that is the time that their brains are actually up, right? You start in school at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No.
So now you got to fight with kids at 7 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. They're not up. You're looking for their brains to, and I think adults forget that you were once a kid. Do you remember what your experience was like? As a middle school teacher, I remember my experience as a middle schooler, and I'm like, ugh, having to get up early and go to class. I'm like, learning, ain't nobody thinking about no learning. Like, I don't want to sit in your class. I don't care what you're talking about. I ain't even had breakfast yet. Right. And it goes back to what you said about how like the kids' personal lives and their society, how that all plays a role into who the kid is. And so if I'm coming from a space where there is no food in the house, now I got to go to school. But on my way to school, keep in mind, especially because we're Black and brown, I now have to get my baby sister up, get my baby brother up. I got to make sure they're showered and make sure they're dressed, make sure that they've eaten something. But by the time I eat something, there's no food left for me. And so I just got to go on about my day. And now I'm sitting here in classes, hungry. It is about 8 o'clock in the morning. I do not want to learn. I have nothing to give you right now. There's no food inside of me. And so because we're not thinking about these things, that kid doesn't listen. They don't do it. They don't do it. No, they're like literally having to be an adult when they are at home. And so the way that they're acting out in your classroom is a result of, in their personal life, they have to be an adult. They only get to be a kid when they're in your class. And you want to hold them to the same standard as their personal life is holding them. And it's not going to work.
That's so real. So real. On top of that, the kid probably got yelled at, by the parent in the morning, probably got yelled at on the street by someone, probably got yelled at by an older sibling. And now they walk into the school building and get yelled at for being late. It's like, listen, I'm being yelled at too much. I'm going to act out. And I don't even want to be here because I'm dealing with so much. And that's when the day gets started off wrong. And then it's downhill from there.
Always.
Being more goes back to being more compassionate, like you said, Absolutely. Being more compassionate to the students and understanding their situations. And I think that is like one of the big first steps to really, really making it more equitable for all.
Oh, of course.
For sure. I love that. Next question, I would ask you, if you had one chance to give some advice to a new Black male teacher, let's make it really specific. What advice would you give them in their first year to help them be successful?
That's a good question there. I think the best advice I can give a Black male educator who is just getting into this thing, find you a hobby. Find you a hobby.
I love that. Can you explain why?
Are you serious? A hobby? Find you a hobby. You are going to go to work, and there are moments where you're going to have to take the work home with you. You're going to be over it. Your principal probably going to work your nerves. Your coworkers are probably going to work your nerves. Find yourself a hobby. The kids, again, who probably been going through all day, and now you got to put on this face because even teachers are dealing with personal things in their lives, right? And so now everybody's just affected. It's a chain reaction. Find yourself a hobby. Get into something. I don't care. As long as it's positive and as long as you get to give back to the people in a positive, find yourself a hobby. For me, right now, in the midst of COVID, I'm teaching full-time. I'm in school full-time, working on another master's degree. But those are both very stressful things.
Yes.
I'm telling my kids, y'all are talking about all of this. Mr. Carter's just as tight as you are. Believe you me, I am just as tight as you all are. Because I'm giving you homework, I got to go home and do my own homework.
And then grade your homework that I gave to you.
It's like us, right? And so my hobbies for me, because I studied design, I'm always designing something.
I love that.
So when I'm feeling like it's so much pressure, I'm like, where's my sewing machine? Where's the fabric? Let's make something beautiful. If I don't feel like sewing, I have my iPad. I draw on that. If I don't feel like drawing, I go to the canvas. I start painting, right? I'm a singer. I'll sing. Find yourself a hobby to keep you grounded in all of the crazy.
That's a gem. That is a gem, man, because if not, we go into the field being so passionate and caring so much, and sometimes it doesn't work out for us, or we don't reach a kid that we want to reach, or our message isn't going across, or everyone above us, like admin, etc., is bringing so much pressure on us, and we can become overwhelmed. But unless you have something outside of that school building, outside of that career that you can pour yourself into, that can pour back into you, and you can really feel like it's a getaway.
Yeah.
And you're gonna burn out, and you're gonna leave the field. And that's why a lot of Black teachers and Black male teachers leave after a few years, because they don't have that hobby that they can step away and get some love and put their passion into something else besides that passion they have for teaching.
But even that thought of like why Black male teachers step away, a lot of them also step away because we work in a system that says, if you are a Black male, here's what you need to be doing. I don't want to be your dean of students. I don't want to handle this and everything. How about I just want to educate some kids? That's it. That's all. But I don't want to be out here reprimanding, policing Black and brown kids. No, I don't want to do that. So actually, if you're going to put me in that type of position, let me do it my way.
Yes.
The biggest issue I find in that is you're going to tell me how to do it.
Yeah. You're just a face. So,
no shade to nobody, but it's a lot of white administration and you telling me how to handle a Black or brown person. Really?
That's so real. So real. I was a dean.
You're gonna tell my Black self how to handle a Black kid? I know it doesn't work with them. Yelling as a Black. My mama yelled at me. Doesn't work. You can yell all you want to. I'm gonna look at you like you're crazy. Like, okay, fine.
Your yelling is never gonna be worse than my mom yelling at me, so I'm not gonna react to that at all.
Right? And so how can we positively talk to children so that they actually understand, oh, that's what I did wrong. And I could for me, I could just say that because it was easy, especially when I first started teaching middle school. For me to yell at a kid, it was the simplest thing. It was simple. My first year, I said, oh, so this is not gonna work for me. Middle school, y'all can take me on back to high school. This thing ain't gonna do it. They don't listen, they are reckless. Those are at that point, they are a different breed.
Different hormones are kicking in.
Breed. It's the hormone. It's just the everything of being in middle school.
Yeah.
It is so much happening. You're not a child, but you're not old enough to do the high school stuff, not young enough to do the elementary stuff. It's a really, really odd point.
True.
But yelling at them, no. Forget about it. Forget about it, right? And so how about you ask kids at this point, when you do realize, it's not clicking to them. How can I best support you? What supports do you need, right? I see that you're having a rough day. Because that's even with people at this point, that's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
I see that you're having a rough day. It is my thing on a weekly basis because I know my co-teacher at some point gonna be like, over it. I say to her, I said, Palmer, what supports do you need? How can I support you today? What is it that you need from me in order for you to effectively show up, not only for yourself, because if you can't show up for yourself, how are you showing up for your co-teacher? How are you showing up for these kids? You can't. You gotta put you first. So what is it that you need in order to put you first? So that way I can do my part and then we could effectively teach these kids.
That's it.
What is it that you need, right? And so we need to get into the habit, especially as Black and brown educators, asking kids, what supports do you need today? What's stopping you from being great today? What's stopping you from being great today, right? And it could be a plethora of things. Maybe I need my seat changed.
Yeah.
Maybe I need a different type of work today. I want to do this lesson because I want to learn what you all are learning, but I need it in a different manner. Maybe I might need a buddy today. I might need a moment to just go and cry. I need to just release some things. Maybe my classes today during COVID need to be asynchronous. I need to just sit by myself and get through this thing. I don't need you barking at me about let me just do it on my own. I can guarantee you, asking the kid, what supports do you need? Again, meet them where they are. They'll give you what you need from them. They'll give you what you need from them.
That's so real. And I think that is just a life skill too, right? Getting the kids to be able to look within. It's mental health. It's a social emotional learning piece, right? Because if you train them to be able to look within and figure out their needs and then find ways to speak up for themselves and advocate for themselves to get the needs met, that's something that they're going to have to do and can make them successful in life. because through life, you're going to always have these situations. And unfortunately for us, I would say from my perspective as a Black and brown educator, and even as a student growing up, we kept everything in, and we never communicated our thoughts, our feelings, and our needs, because we felt like we weren't entitled to do so, right? And other groups of people, they'll tell you how they feel, they'll tell you how to make them feel easily. But I think if we do more of pushing our Black and brown kids to look and figure out themselves, have tools to support themselves, but also communicate their needs, I think that's going to really empower them, and it can make a huge difference as far as teaching and learning. So I love that. I love that.
About our community itself, it's so simple for Black and brown parents to straight up say to their kids, what happens in this house stays in this house. What nobody ever discusses, though, is how that further along in life impacts you in a negative manner. Because then you get to school and you cannot advocate for yourself, because if it happened in this classroom, your thought is going to stay in this classroom. You get into relationships. What happens in this relationship stays in. So what you're doing is going to bother me. You find yourself on jobs not saying nothing because, oh no, that's not what we do here. And literally, all because of that simple thing that took place as a child in your home. What happens in this house stays in this house. And so now you're going through life with this idea of, well, I'm not going to discuss it because we just don't discuss things.
And you're walking around with a 200-pound backpack because it's so heavy. You're carrying such a load. And then it comes out in so many different areas. You take it out on so many different people, and no one knows why. And you don't even know why, because you never had the chance to really sit with it and understand why you feel that way or why you're in that situation. So,
I had when I first, the charter school I worked for, when I first started working for them, I would never forget my first meeting with my principal when there was an incident with a kid. And it was like, in that moment, it was funny to me when she said it, but she looked at the kid and she said, okay, so let's unpack this. I ain't never heard it before. What do you mean unpack this? What are we unpacking this? What are we unpacking here? And I watched her line of questioning. I watched, her physical mannerisms, like how she sat, right? And she asked the kid, she said, let's unpack this. And she sat back and she folded her hands. And she let the kid just talk. She never stopped him. She just let him talk and release it all. And release it all. This is what people are doing with kids.
Yeah, that's it.
This is a real life thing. People are saying to kids, let's unpack this. Let's address your concerns. Let's talk about it. What is it that is stopping you from being great? What are you holding on to? And you have these discussions with kids, and one, you'd be surprised what you find out. You'd be surprised what you find out. Here you are being so hard on these kids, not realizing, oh no, they are at home going through. They are going through at home. Mommy and daddy done been on the foolishness. Everybody around them is just on foolishness. And these kids are going through. And nobody is just asking simple questions like, how are you? And it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? When we say to kids, how are you? Or to people in general, the how are you? Good. We always think, oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm great. I'm excellent. I'm actually not okay. I want to quit. I want to give up. This is just not it. This is not where I saw myself. And so I want it to be over.
Yeah.
But when you let people sit in this space of, I'm just not okay. Wow, what a difference. Being open and honest about how you actually feel can shift an entire dynamic.
I love that. And we always talk about community building, right? That's like one of the first questions you ask if you're trying to build a community, because the kids will really understand and see that you care, and then everyone will try to find ways to support each other because we're being real and honest about how we feel. But as long as we keep it in and we're not being honest, or you don't have an environment where the culture pushes people to be honest and open with each other, then you can't really build a community in that space.
So when you talk about community building, what would you say is the first step to building a positive community?
Trust.
Okay, trust.
Trust. I think trust is for me, I think is big. I think you have to be able to trust that you can be yourself, you can let down your guard, and it's not going to come back to bite you in the butt.
That's
I think
real.
when we build that trust, and then I think there's so many other factors, but I feel like for me, trust. When I feel trusted in the community, I can be my authentic self, and then I feel appreciated and valued. And I think
Okay, so
that's a big step.
post trust, what steps should be taken?
I think you have to have real conversations. I think, and you have to get to know the person outside of that building. If we're talking about a school building, I think you have to get to know people, step away from the school building, get to know them on a personal level,
Okay.
and then building trust. I think those are two key factors. How about you? What do you think?
I think for me, honesty
Mm,
is numero uno. Honesty.
yeah.
If you're gonna lie about how you feel, you're gonna lie about where you're at in life and in the situation, you already done set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Already set yourself up for failure. And so you you have to be honest. And when I say honesty, you have to be honest with yourself.
That's where it starts.
You gotta be honest with yourself, right? I don't care that you going around telling everybody else, like, oh, wow, you look really great, or you're doing really nope, ain't gonna do it. You gotta be honest with yourself. I think when I think about that, in the past 5 years, I've really been just doing really, really hard, reflective self, right? I said, if I'm gonna stay in education or whatever it is that I'm gonna do, Quincy, you've got to be honest with yourself. And the most honest thing I could have ever said to myself at that point when I first started was, bro, you don't have it all together. And guess what? That's okay.
No one does.
Rome was not built in a day. We are like Black and brown people, we just starting to get recognition.
Yeah, it's early.
2020, 2021, we really just started getting.
Yeah. And
it ain't gonna happen overnight.
No, and we're really just starting to feel comfortable sharing our perspectives and our voice and owning it, really just it's early and it's changing fast because people are really, they're listening to us and they see how much power we have. And the more we're able to communicate, and this is why, I built this platform. I want the more we can talk and express ourselves and share experiences, the more power we have, especially if we come together.
Absolutely. I just think that honesty, it can shift anything, but you got to be honest. If you're going to sit here and tell these lies to yourself, well, I'm sorry to those people. Because you got to, now you got to live with that and you got to go through that for what? Why endure that for the sake of enduring it?
Yeah. And you have to take some responsibility for things not changing because you weren't honest in a situation when you had the opportunity to do so.
Now, how many people actually know that part? Because I'm big on accountability. I'm big on accountability. And so it's easy. I always, so did I curse you out? I absolutely did. Yep. It was me. All of me. Nope. It was not no persona. It wasn't another person. It wasn't one in my head. It was Quincy Carter. Yep. I did it. Right? You got to own that part. But that comes with what? Being honest. If you're a person who's not honest with yourself, you ain't never going to take accountability for your actions. It's always on somebody else. My biggest, when people say, oh, it's the white man's fault. Pause. So you mean to tell me you got locked up because of some white person? Did you think that what you were doing was okay? Right? And so granted, the way it probably went down was very messy. But you got to take accountability for what you played in that role.
That's it.
And if you don't take accountability and you're not honest about it, you're going to go through life thinking it was everybody else. No.
And then you make the same mistake over and over and over again because you never had a chance to learn from that experience and become better from it because you have excuses built in of why you did it.
Yep. And that's how people they navigate life that way. And so we think about education, educators don't get the respect they deserve. We are the hardest working people on this planet. Nobody, I don't care what position, I don't care if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, a lawman, Nope. President of the United States.
You read my mind. I was going to say that next. The president of the United States. Nope.
Doesn't matter.
Be a teacher for 1 month. You'll
Nobody works as hard as an educator. We are at you can't even be in any of those positions without an educator. We decide, right, if you are ready to move on to the next level or not. Right? If you were working on your PhD and you had to go defend your thesis, this panel of teachers, they're going to say to you, go back to the drawing board. Or they'll say to you, good job. Yep. But it's because of teachers. And still, in all the hard work that we do, especially Black and brown teachers, we have for years, for eons at this point, we make sure there's food stacked in our classrooms, socks, underclothes, clothes themselves, because we know the community in which we serve. We make sure that kids are taken care of. There are moments where, as educators, we have taken children home with us. We've taken children home. We have paid for books. We have paid for the uniforms. We've paid for the soap. We've paid. This is who we are as educators, and asked for nothing in return. Also, that a kid understood their place in life and who they were, and that there's somebody who cares about you. You are not just another number. You will not be a negative statistic. If you will be a statistic, it will be an incredible one. Yes, those teachers at that school, they produce great kids. Their kids go to high school, they go to college, and they excel. That's who we are as a people. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've never, as Black people, as brown people, what we ain't is mediocre. That's not it. People, I've heard people having the discussion on how people say that Black people are lazy.
How?
Possible. Not possible. It's just not possible.
We wouldn't have made it this far.
We literally built this. Black people went from building pyramids to building the White House. Black people did that.
And society they want us to be lazy. They try to give us things to make us complacent and lazy. But as you can see, we keep going and we keep pushing. And no matter what you put in front of us, we keep jumping over that wall, and you can't stop us.
I taught a lesson this year. I teach science to 7th graders, and one of the lessons was natural selection. And so natural selection, it just talks about how over time things can change, and you can go from being this one thing to being something completely different. But it's time that shifts that, right? And so when you think about people of color and who we are in general, we live here now. This ain't where we from, right? And so over a course of time, when you look at like that span of who Black people are, where they come from to where they are now.
Deep. That's a whole nother 3-hour podcast right there. And that's where we need more conversations around that too, because that really that shows our power. I think if our youth really see our true power and what we come from, even more unstoppable.
Like one person who I love, and it's interesting listening to your voice. You sound just like him, Jay-Z.
Oh man, don't say that. That's my favorite ever rapper.
Jay-Z literally went from selling drugs in the hood. This is who he was.
Yep.
He made a rap career for himself. The man is now a billionaire.
Yeah. And
one might ask, how did he do it? The man knew, right? So if you smart, because this man, he's brilliant, obvious, right? He took this thing that people deem as wrong.
Yeah.
And he flipped it in reverse.
And marketed
what
it.
you consider to be street mentality. He said, I've got you. I'm going to help you one. I'm going to do you one better. The man sits in boardrooms now. Not just any boardroom, his own boardroom.
Yeah.
His own boardroom.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? And so kids have these types of things to look at and to see, because you mean to tell me you could legitimize yourself? That we could actually do things legitimately and not be bothered and not be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got all these shining examples.
Yeah.
Right?
But you know what happens? Not to cut you off, is that
But
the media will make it seem like Jay-Z and Diddy are these aliens out of just these guys are they're not aliens. And they want you to think that they're aliens so you can't think that they're just like you, that you can do the same thing if you put your mind to it. So what we have to do is reverse and let them know that they're just human beings. They were in the same
like,
classroom as you and probably failed grades just like you and were told they were not good enough just like you. And you listen to the music, they actually do that. But you just have to believe in yourself. You not listen to what the media tells you those expectations are for yourself and go beyond that. Back to what we were talking about with expectations.
Anybody who sits at such a position, if you ask them, what teacher impacted you the most? What teacher? They not, oh, what rapper or what teacher impacted you the most that might have, like, were there any teachers who inspired you and to help you get to where you are? And I can guarantee you, they're gonna name some teacher.
So that's so real.
Who rocked with them, who was there, who said, I don't care about what they're saying, I know you can do it. I know you could do it. And it just, all it takes is just one teacher.
One.
I don't need 5, I don't need 15. I just need one teacher to say, you know what? I can do this.
That's great. I love that. That actually leads into my last segment. This one is called Choose Your Teachers Wisely. So I want you to think about, even to this day, right? What is one thing or person who has educated you to become a better person? Because education happens inside school and outside of school. So who is that one person or thing or book or something that you can give a shout out to that has done that for you?
So unfortunately, it's not one person.
Okay.
There were 3 people who have impacted my life in such an incredible way. And they are the most unprotected people in this world. Black women.
So true.
My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she and I, thick as thieves, that words couldn't even express. Words could not express my gratitude for this woman. Me and my mother have always had a very strange relationship, but my grandmother made sure that I was good. She asked the questions of, are you okay? What supports do you need? How can I? She was that person, right? The other 2 people would be my middle school vocal music teacher, Jean Jennings. Lit. She's just lit. She was, and she'd tell you in a heartbeat, she was a down the way girl. She's from the hood and came back to teaching the hood.
There you go.
Right? Beautiful Black woman who y'all can say whatever y'all want about her. I can guarantee you she's the baddest in the room. And I'm not just talking about physically, I'm talking about mentally. Overall. She's lit. Last person would be my best friend, Isidra. We've been best friends for 20 years.
Wow.
And the woman leaves me speechless every time. If nobody else believes in me, I know that she does. And she makes sure that I know that. I run a company, a design company, and she's the creative director for my company. The woman, she knows me in the natural, in the spiritual, in the realm of art. She knows me, right? And she's one of the only people who actually knows me in my full spectrum of life. It's her encouragement for me. The way that Black women love is just always, it's impeccable. It's impeccable. So those 3 women, they're the ones, the truth for me. I'm even able to sit where I sit and stand where I stand without the words, encouragement, advice, and love that they've always given.
I love that. Thank you, Quincy, for coming on the show. It was such a great conversation, and thank you. I appreciate you for your time. Yeah, thank you. We need to stay in contact. Definitely, I'll definitely want to stay in contact. Definitely.
I think the work that you're doing is absolutely incredible. to create a platform to discuss such things about education, about Black and brown kids. It's a conversation that is well overdue that we should all be having.
Thank
Right?
you.
If we're not discussing how to best educate the Black and brown community, we've got a problem. They literally are the future. The way that Black and brown people are coming up in this world, they need teachers behind them. They need every single piece of everything to ensure their success. Whatever people decide to take from them, I can guarantee you there's probably a Black or brown educator who's like, we're going to go ahead and fix this thing here, because their lives do matter. And so we thank you for the platform.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed. And remember, education over everything. Later.